I thought this guy was the most creepy person I'd seen all year in terms of movies, but the third act of Alien Romulus proved me dead wrong. Listen, I saw Alien Romulus. A lot of people have seen Alien Romulus. It's doing really well in the box office, and yet there are a lot of people still talking shit about this movie. And I need to make this video as someone who is worried about this movie being garbage, and in my own way explain why they're all wrong. They're saying stuff like, oh, this movie doesn't really live up to the expectations of Alien 1 and Alien 2. It's not as good, which I agree with. It's probably the third best movie in the Alien franchise. They say, oh, the characters suck. Oh, it doesn't really do anything new. We've seen it all before. It's not that scary. They're not completely wrong on it not doing anything new, but that's only half correct. A lot of these old heads who cannot stop jerking off to how good the first two Alien movies are, they, I feel, will not give this a chance in any regard. They were probably going in hating the movie. So I have to come at these guys now, right? I have to stand up for a movie that even I thought wasn't going to be great. Your enjoyment of this movie will be based on two camps, okay? There are two camps of people in the Alien fan base. The ones that enjoyed Alien 1 and Alien 2 and loved those movies for what they were and didn't like anything that Ridley Scott tried to do with the prequels and Prometheus and Covenant. They didn't want to expand into the lore that much at all. They didn't want us to know the mysteries of the xenomorph and the universe that this Alien franchise is a part of. That's one camp, okay? I'm not really in that camp, because we have the other camp who may have liked Prometheus and Covenant, may not have, but they're really into the lore and they want a connection between this movie and the prequels that were set up. They want to have closure in that thread. And a lot of people, a lot of fans just want to go back to basics and say, no, we just want the old Alien again. And me, I'm like, there's only so many times I can see a xenomorph attack people on a spaceship and be just satisfied with it. We do at some point need to expand into something different. And I think Prometheus and Covenant have a lot of problems. I think those movies are films that are trying to be smarter than they are because their characters are absolutely idiotic. That being said, the xenomorph is also the least scary thing in this film, which is not exactly a bad thing, because the facehuggers are as aggressive, violent, sexual. They're sexual assaulters in this movie like they've never been. And there's a couple great sequences in this film with them. They're scary as hell. As someone who's literally terrified of insects and spiders, this was nightmare fuel for me. And there's a ton of sequences in this film. The biggest pro of this movie is the sequences that they have in this are like adrenaline fueled. There's one with a bunch of facehuggers that I'm not going to go into much detail, but they do something new with the facehuggers, and it's really well done. There's one with the gravity. There's a sequence of gravity and the lack of gravity. Most of all, this movie does feel like its own movie. It doesn't feel like it's trying to set up something else. It doesn't feel like it's so deeply tied to the other movies. It feels like its own film. It doesn't feel like a remake or copy of Alien or Aliens. It feels like a standalone movie in the universe. You don't need to really watch the other movies to watch this and enjoy it. That's probably the best thing I can say about it. Now, cons, this character can fuck off to hell. I don't really understand. Well, I do understand. Movies always do this thing where they put a really unlikable character that's supposed to be one of the leads, one of the guys you're supposed to root for. He's there just to make you care about another character. So he picks on Andy in the majority of his scenes, and it makes you care. He's supposed to be a foil to make you care about Andy more. But the problem is they ruin his character in the result of propping Andy up and making you feel pity for Andy. And they just want you to see him die. And it ruins his character and makes him unlikable, and it makes other people unlikable for not stopping him from doing it. So I hate that they use characters like this all the time. The bully that doesn't need to bully anyone, really. Now, I understand that they go into his backstory a bit, but like, it gets to the point where I just want this guy dead, and I want Andy to be the one to do it. All the other characters are cannon fodder, and you don't really care about them. I do feel bad for her character because she never gets a break in this movie. She kind of goes through it in this film. Well done performance by Isabel Merced, I believe. Whatever her name is. All the other characters are garbage. Another thing, this movie does try to do a lot of Easter egg callbacks. Not Easter egg, but callbacks to lines used from the other films. And it's really cringeworthy when they do this in films now. They do this in the Shane Black's Predator. They did it with, oh God. get to the chopper and you're an ugly motherfucker, and I hate it. The CGI on Rook is, I know everyone's talking about it, but like it's awful. It's genuinely some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life. The third act, let's just get to it. All right. I can only describe this as the thing that appears in the third act as a result of a pathogen interfering with a human pregnancy, and it's terrifying. Literally, when the music builds up and then you see it all go silent, and then you see the first shot of this creature, which grows in a matter of a minute, by the way. It fully grows in a matter of a minute, which is terrifying, which is probably even scarier. That's the scariest thing. This thing grows faster than a xenomorph, is bigger than a xenomorph, is probably stronger than a xenomorph, and this thing is like literally a spawn out of hell. When I saw it, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was creeped. Like, nothing in the Alien movies scare me. Like, they're not horror movies in my opinion, but this shit creeped me out. When I saw this, I was like, oh god, that is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That is probably the best thing that I can use to describe what this creature is. It literally is a malnourished rapist engineer. That's literally what it is. That's what it looks like, and I feel like this is their way of making things come full circle, right? The engineers use the pathogen to create us, in a sense, and now the pathogen is mixed with their kin, their descendants, to make a bastardized version of that engineer. I don't actually know how it works. Like how does, I guess the genetics just go all the way back to the first kind, and it's somehow made an engineer looking it's like a cross between a neomorph and an engineer. Really. It really reminded me of Gabe from The Office when I saw it. I don't know why. The closest thing you can compare it to is a hybrid from Alien Resurrection, but that hybrid is like this ugly looking piece of crap, and this creature looks genuinely terrifying. The hybrid is like this, almost like this ugly deformed baby that's gross, but this offspring that they're calling it now, this is like, there's something about the tall, lanky, bone crackling, pale, black-eyed creature that this offspring is, like, it's just terrifying. It feeds on its own mother, and she is literally her breast milk is turned to black goo from the pathogen, and it's feeding off of her. It's absolutely gross. It's kind of added a lot of lore to the universe, which is why I say this movie does mostly things that are the same that we've seen before, but the third act does something really different, where not only do they expand on the pathogen's capabilities, because we've seen this kind of thing before, where in Prometheus, Shaw gets impregnated and the guy she's banging is infected, and then she ends up giving birth to a freaking squid. But like, I'm gonna be honest, that's not like this. This was a full injection of like the human's variant of the pathogen, and it's turned into something else. It's turned into like a refined version of what it was. Because keep in mind, whenever the pathogen has been exposed to humans, we end up, even in Prometheus, when one of them got exposed to like that worm thing that was made of the pathogen, it turns into a xenomorph shape. When a human mutates in these movies, their head arches and they turn xenomorph-esque. But this offspring that came from her, it didn't turn into that squid facehugger thing, and it didn't turn into this xenomorph headed looking creature. It's crossed between a xenomorph and an engineer. I do see a lot of people saying, oh, I really wish that man, that was so disappointing, the 15-minute, it came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. Literally, they had established that she'd injected herself with this pathogen literally before the third act. People are fucking stupid, I'm telling you. There are NPCs who are commenting on this movie, and some comments are saying, oh, I expected better from the creature at the end. I wanted it to be a queen. I saw a couple comments saying they wanted it to be a queen. How on earth would that make any sense? And first of all, you want to see the same kind of creature you've seen in like a dozen of these movies, which is stupid. But you think a pathogen infecting a human fetus is going to turn into a queen? The way that when we see a queen emerging from a human, it was a queen facehugger attaching itself to Ripley, and then that queen comes out of her, and then that gives birth to the hybrid. Like, a queen would have never. That's not how the genetics work in this. You idiots. A lot of people, our critics, are saying that weak characters are dumb and weak. Listen, the characters that mattered the most, the main two, were strong. They're some of the strongest in the franchise. In fact, I would say that the two characters in this movie I liked more than anyone in Prometheus, including Shaw, anyone in Covenant, anyone in Alien 3 except for Ripley, anyone in Alien Resurrection. And I'm going to be honest, besides Ripley and Ash, do you remember what the names are of like the other people in the crew in Alien 1? Maybe you do remember the names, but do you care about them really? No, you fucking don't. You don't care about them. And the same... Okay, Aliens is a different story. You got Newt, Ripley, and a couple of the people that are entertaining. Fine, I'll give you that. Aliens has got a way better crew. But Alien is the masterpiece of the franchise, and there's only really one character you care about, and that's Ripley. Ash, you are invested in, but for a different reason. He's like a villain in that movie. So you don't give me this old head shit where, oh, the characters in this are all crap and they're stupid and they make dumb decisions. In fact, I'm gonna be honest, some of them made really smart decisions. Some of them were, like, the main character in this has never used a gun before, but she becomes really good, ex machina all of a sudden with a gun. That could be a criticism, but instead they're like, no, these characters make all the dumb decisions. This wasn't like Alien Covenant, where these characters were making dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision. I didn't see that from this. These are relatively, this is a young cast, of course. They're young characters, and what they did made sense for this world, in my opinion, for the most part. Yeah, some characters made some dumb decisions here and there, but they're ones that you can understand more than in the other movies. So all this old head talk about these characters suck, no, they don't. They don't. Two of them don't. Alien Romulus didn't save storytelling like I wanted it to in my last video, but it did pretty much all the stuff that I needed it to. It established a connection between Prometheus, which I really wanted, but it also didn't really try to force it in, right? They didn't go into David as much as I thought they probably would have, and I wanted them to, which I think for now was the proper choice. They established the pathogen, they hint at Prometheus, and they made a damn good story, and they did something different at the end. The third act, even though that thing where there's multiple endings is done in all these Alien movies, the third act is one of the more terrifying third acts of any of the Alien. Is there a scarier third act? I don't think so, that I've seen in the Alien movies. So, yeah, we need to give this movie its flowers, in my opinion. All right, that's all from me, guys.